This assignment is about, once again, it's an environment related assignment, but it's one of the really useful ones in the sense that it's to do with how the connections behave by default. So there is macro, it's called macro defaults, presets, which is the macro presets, and then auto presets. So it will be divided into three parts. The most interesting part would probably be the auto presets, which will allow you to set up COMOSYS in such a way that you can basically use one-click connect, which means that you will not be worrying about settings anymore and just using the auto presets to be selected automatically by COMOSYS so that all the macros work exactly the way you want with a single click, rather than first connecting and then making changes in the parameters of those connections. Instead of doing that, you will do that only once. So imagine your floor beams. You work with 35, 40, 50 different floor sections. Let's say IPE and INP and whatever, those kinds of, and the whole range from IPE 100 to IPE 600 or something. And similarly, the HEA sections and all that. So you have many sections with which you work with, and your company has a standard way of connecting those profiles, or maybe two standard ways of connecting those profiles, depending on the load level, for example. But you could save away all those presets, and then instead of choosing them from a list every time you connect, you could use the concept of auto presets to make COMOSYS automatically select the correct preset for you. So it'll be a very interesting exercise. We'll do it in 3 steps. We'll first work with the macro defaults, then with macro presets, and finally with how can we connect the presets to auto select themselves. That's going to be this assignment. It's going to be very similar to the earlier ones in the sense of which files are where, how do you find them, and how do you copy them to the cloned environment directory. But so that part will be a repeat, but we'll do it anyways. But we'll be doing the defaults, the presets, and the auto presets for the connections. So let's start with the defaults. So these are the macros on the right-hand side, which we will be working with in this assignment. So let's start, for example, with the beam-to-beam end plate macro. So to change the default, as always, we click on the Shift key and then click on the beam-to-beam defaults. And we can change any parameter which we want over here. So let's just change the plate parameter to, we want to be S235, for example. And first, so the figures, there's some bolts over there. We can change, for example, this one to be maybe 2 into 50, something like that. And we say apply and then set as default. And that will basically change the default for this macro. Like I said, you can change anything else which you want over here. So once you've pressed on, clicked on set as default, just look at the time, it's 16:38. So what we do is we go to the tools macro defaults over here, and we start writing in beam-to-beam end plate connection. This is the one which we are working with. And if we say open the preset folder and the local one, because everything is being saved to the local at the moment, you click on that, you see that the same timestamp, 16:38, we did it just a moment ago. And this is the def file, the default file. What if you wanted all subsequent beam connections to have this default? You would just select this, say copy, like that. Once again, click on the same open preset folder, but this time instead of choosing the local, choose the company one, which will take you to the cloned environment. Over here, we already have a default, but let's just overwrite that. It says replace the file. So from now on, this particular macro will work every time you create a new project. It will work according to this default. Now you can do the same. Let me just close this. You can do the same for this macro, for this macro, for this one, and it's a good idea to just quickly go through the most commonly used ones at least. Maybe if you feel you don't have time to go through all of them, then at least go through the most commonly used beam to beam, beam to column, bracing macros, splice macros in particular. You might want to, because these are the most commonly used ones, and you want the default behavior to be kind of reasonable and good and according to your liking. Now, the next thing which this assignment wants me to do is to choose 3 different beam sizes, any beam sizes I want, and create 3 different presets for the beam to beam fin plate macro. So I'll create 3 different secondaries of different sizes, and then I'll connect them using the fin plate macro to my liking, the way I want to connect them for those sizes, and then I'll assign presets to them. So let's go back to the model. I have created 3 different secondaries. This one is an IPE 240. This one is an IPE 200, whereas this last one is an IPE 160. So let's start connecting them using the beam to beam fin plate macro. Select the main, select the secondary, right click 3 times because it asks for secondaries which we don't want in this case. And it's created something by default. So what I can do is, if I don't like this, I can go inside, press M, enter, change this maybe from into 2 into 55 rather than 110. Okay, when we do that, we also need to enter a number over here. So that's better. Just remember in COMOSYS, whenever you're using bolt distances, you either leave them entirely blank, in which case it tries to design the bolt set for you, or if you're entering, you need to enter the distances in the XY direction. Because it doesn't know what combination to take, whether you want the other side to be designed, that really makes it a much more difficult problem. So whenever you're entering distances, make sure you're entering the X and Y directions. So this is, I've changed the bolt, the number of bolts over there. Maybe I can also change the, let's see what else we can change over here. Maybe if I want to change this distance from 20 to 10, like that, maybe bring it closer. And what else can we do? Maybe we change the fin plate thickness. So the fin plate thickness is 8 millimeters. Maybe I want to make it 10 millimeters. And let's say I'm happy with this preset for my fin plate macro. Now, when I'm happy with that, let's remember what the profile was. It was IPE 240. So I go back into my macro and I go to the macro presets tab and I say save as, and I give it, it's a good idea to give this preset the same name as the secondary so that it's easier to recall in our mind. So I'll give it the name of IPE 240. Remember that presets in COMOSYS are saved with the extension of MPR. We've already done that several times. So this preset will be called IPE240.MPR. So we've created this preset now. It's got certain presets inside as well, 200 and 300. In fact, since we might have used the same profile over here, let's use a different profile over here. Instead of 200, maybe I can use 180 so that they don't clash with the ones I already have. So this one is now 180 and this one is 160. So let's try and connect the 180 one now. Once again, go back into the fin plate like that, create the connection, go inside, go to the general page. Over here, maybe we want this to be 65, like that. Don't forget to enter this one. We want this one to be 10 as well. And we just want 2 bolts in this case, let's say. And the plate thickness, we want to keep it, let's say we want to keep it at 8. So those are the changes I'm going to make for this, for the IPE 180, whatever it was. Let's see, I've forgotten, it's IPE 180. So this is the connection I want for that. So I go back inside, go to the macro presets, say save as, and say IPE 180. It's going to be saved as IPE 180.MPR. And now finally, I can do the same thing for this last one, which is IPE 160. And maybe this time I can perhaps, what is the size of the bolts? So this is M16 already, so I don't want to use a smaller bolt. So let's see, maybe, or maybe I can use maybe I can put in a bigger profile. Okay, let's go with 160, like that. So it's giving me a staggered thing. I don't want that. Go to the bolts, sorry, general over here. I'll say 40 in that direction and 0 in that direction. Because I want the bolts to be like that. This one, it just needs to be 10, like that. Maybe 40 is too small. 45, because you need a kind of a 3D distance in that direction as well. Maybe I want to reduce this number by a little to make it a bit closer. And what else do I want over here? Yeah, maybe I'm okay with the rest of it. And maybe I want the bolts to be 5.6 in this case, like that. Now, whatever changes you want, you can make over here. The point is not what numbers I'm entering. The fact that I'm trying to create different presets for different profiles. So I go to my once again, I'm forgetting what this one is. It's IPE 160. So I go back into my macro. Maybe I can not produce the full stiffener. So is there a setting for that? Yeah, maybe I just want a simple connection like this in the small IPE 160 case. So once I'm happy with that, I can go to the macro presets, click on save as, and say IPE 160, and it's going to be saved away as IPE 160.mpr. So let's see what we already have. We've created 160, 180, 240. 200 and 300 were already in there. I'll just show you those as well. So basically, we've created the 3 presets which the assignment wanted us to create. And if we wanted to now put these 3 presets into our cloned environment directory, what would we do? I think you already know. You go to the tools menu, you go to the macro defaults, go to fin plate connection macro. This one, we open the presets folder, the local one, because that is where the files will be residing. And you see over here, the 3 files which I just created are over there. Why am I not seeing the 2 files which are already there? Because those 2 are in the in the cloned environment directory, because it's merging the 2 directories. So since these are the ones I want to copy in there, I'll just select these, say copy, close this, go in there again, click on the same button again. This time press the company folder. And you see that here you see the 200 and 300, which were already in there. I can just right click and paste my new files in there. So from now on, every time I create a new model, I will get these 3 presets for those models as well. What does that mean? What that means is that if I, for example, let's create a new beam. Let's just create a beam from here to here, let's say. Let's give it the same profile as this one, IPE 160. Let's make this one IPE 160 as well. And now let's try to connect it using the fin plate macro, like that. Right click, and it'll do the standard thing right now, because although the preset is there, but the preset has not been selected. So what you do is, in normal conditions, is you open the macro, press M and enter. You open up this list, and you select the appropriate preset, which is IPE 160, and then you say load, and then you say apply, or OK to close the dialog box. Now, this is very convenient. You can create your company presets and use them, but there's one little bit which is a bit inconvenient, and that's the final bit in which I had to actually go in and choose the particular preset, because this list can get pretty long pretty quickly, because you'll have dozens of different profiles which you use for flow beams. When I say dozens, it could easily run into 50, 60, some kind of not thousands perhaps, but easily 50, 60 or 100 profiles which you very regularly use in your projects. And then this list gets really long, and then choosing or selecting from that list can become difficult or time consuming, or you could even select the wrong preset, for example. So what we need is a system which bypasses this need to actually select, and rather it automatically selects the appropriate preset. And that's what we're going to be talking about now. But before we get into the topic of auto presets, I would just like to recommend that this is the time now to actually sit down and start creating presets for at least the floor beam connections so that your company's work gets streamlined. Now, normally for floor beams internationally, people either use the fin plate connection or the stiffened end plate connection or the beam to beam end plate connections or a beam to beam angle cleat connection. These are the ones which are commonly used. So what I recommend is that you sit down and you start, let's say there are 30, 40, 50 different profiles which you use for floor beams. How much time would it take you to create the 50 presets, let's say, for the beam to beam end plate connection? If you think about it, saving away one preset as you get faster, especially, is just a matter of 2 or 3 minutes, maybe even less, because then you start the previous one which you've done. The new one will more or less be the same as that, maybe a minor tweak, and you just save it. So it could be as low as 1 minute, but let's call it 2 or 3 minutes. Now, if you're doing 40 of those at 2 or 3 minutes, that's 120 minutes. That's 2 hours of work. Now, with 2 hours of work, you can put aside the beam to beam end plate connection and all the presets. Another 2 hours, and you've got this one done as well. Another 2 hours and another 2 hours. So let's say in a day, you will have all your floor beam connections presets inside, saved away inside your environment folder. And once you've done that, and what I'm going to show you now, which is actually connecting them to the auto presets system, what that will ensure is that your connection of floor beams is going to become so much faster, because you'll just be going one click connect. You just be selecting the main and selecting the secondary. And that's going to be the difference between doing something in a month and doing something in 5 or 10 days is basically how many clicks you do. And if you're spending 1 minute on a connection as compared to you're spending 1 second on a connection, you can imagine the benefit it will give your company. So what I strongly recommend is to go ahead and create the presets. It doesn't take that much time, and but I've noticed people sometimes don't do it, and they keep spending the few minutes every time they make the connection. But that really accumulates, and that becomes a huge loss at the end of when you total them all up. So it's a great habit to immediately start sitting down and creating your company presets. Now I'm going to talk about the auto presets. So how does the auto preset system work? So for every macro in COMOSYS, you have the preset override system. Now, to get to that, what you can do is, so this is the fin plate macro. Just remember the name, because the name of the file associated with that will have the same name as the macro name, but with a small addition of preset overrides or something like that. We'll just see it. So what you do is you click on this button over here, and you go to your company folder, the environment folder. And over here, you will see a file. It's going to look like this. You come down and you try to find the name of your macro, which you're dealing with right now, which is the fin plate. And you will see it somewhere. So this one says fin plate connection macro, but then it says preset override. This will be the standard format. So for example, if you're looking for the end plate splice macro, it will be end plate splice new macro preset override. It will be the name of the macro followed by preset override. So in our case, fin plate connection macro preset override, flange extension offshore macro preset override. So all these are you have to look for the word preset override after the name. So this is the one we're looking for, this fin plate connection macro preset override. You're in the, by the way, you're in the cloned environment preferences folder. Just double click on this text file and you will see a format like this, in which there is the name of the profile followed by, I think this is a tab. Let's see. Yeah, it's a tab, followed by the MPR file name. So we had already given the name of the MPR files the same as the secondary. So all you need to do is add them over here. So I'll just say IPE160 tab IPE160.mpr. Similarly, IPE200 tab IPE. I'm sorry, I forgot the 0 over there. Like that IPE200.mpr. Let's just go back in there to see what others we did. We did 240, 180, because we 240 and 180. So let me go back. Let's make this 240. And we also did IPE 180 tab IPE 180.mpr. All you're doing over here is adding a line for every preset that you have made. And what you're telling COMOSYS is, whenever you see this profile, use this MPR file. So this name could have been different. I could have given it different, but it's easier to remember if you give it the same name as the profile. But that's not a requirement. So you just keep adding a line for it. Let's say you have 40 different profiles you work with, you'll have 40 different lines over here. That's all you're going to do. So we've added 160, 240, and 180. Those are the 3 new presets which you've added. And that's all you do, and you just say save, and you're already in the cloned environment, so you're fine. You just close that, and now let me show you what's going to happen. I'm going to just remember what they look like. This is what the IPE 240 looked like with 3 bolts in a line. This one is what the 180 looked like, 2 bolts, and the last one also had 2 bolts, but the fin plate was simpler. So let's just delete all these macros. Let's just delete all of them. Press enter, go to select the 4 macros like that, and just say delete. And now what we can do is we can just start clicking. Previously, if you remember, we had to first connect and then go and choose from the list. But in this case, I'm going to just start saying this one, click, this one, click, like that. And if you notice, what's happening over here is the correct presets are being applied. And this is a huge time saver. This is what we call one-click connect, in which once you've spent that day doing all your floor connections and the presets, and you've connected them to the override file, that is basically it. From that point onward, and you've copied them to your cloned environment folder. From that point onwards, everybody working in your company will just be using a single click to connect all these, to make all these connections. And you're not limited to these 4, of course. You can do the beam to column connections, the bracing connections, the purlin and gird connections. You can basically go through the entire set, create your own sets. But the ones most frequently used, I mean, I'm just saying this to kind of motivate you into doing it, are obviously the floor connections. Those are the ones which you should definitely do. And like I said, instead of spending 1 day on this, if you spend 2 or 3 days on this, you've basically got the whole all the connection library saved away. So this is highly recommended, and the whole purpose of this exercise is to motivate you into actually doing it, rather than just doing it for a single connection like we did now. Actually do it for all the connections, for all the 30-40 different profiles which you typically use.